solution. So this is the story. I didn't want to talk about this individual here at this panel to bother you all the details, but since you asked, Mr. ΟւΓΙΓ, I want to respond about this.
I don't want to deepen into it, just a humanitarian appeal I would like to launch there. Prime Minister Phashinyan, coming back to the question I asked at the outside also to President Aliyev, the repercussions of the war of Russia against Ukraine on your country.
Thank you. I also would like to express my gratitude to you and for organizing such a format. And really, I agree, maybe it is historic meeting, but it's very important to identify the content of the history that now is being created, because we can have different outcome, consequences or results, and I think we need to be result-oriented, and that is our approach. And as far as your question is concerned, you know, global instability can make things in our region better. Because, you know, for a long time, all international attention is concentrated on Ukraine, understandably, and it creates new risks for our region. And it's very important to keep the international attention to our region as well, because I think there are many risks to be managed. What is our approach to this whole situation? We stayed devoted to our democratic reform agenda, because we believe that democratic reforms, the development of democratic institutions, rule of law, human rights, independent judiciary, etc., would make the overall situation in our region better, and we think that it is a benefit for whole region for us to do a part of our part of the job.
Yes, thank you very much. This leads me now directly to the Secretary General of the OSCE, Helga Schmidt. Wonderful to be here in your hometown in Munich. Now, the OSCE is an organization where the 3 countries are member of. By the way, an organization where Russia is still a member of. What can the OSCE at this stage do to help also cooperation between the countries, to help to stabilize, to have the instruments that the OSCE has at its disposal at a difficult time for your organization? But what can you do to try to lower tensions and promote cooperation?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm also very happy to be part of this meeting today. But I would, before I come to your question, Christoph, let me just say that we are also witnessing the impact of a horrible earthquake that is affecting Turkey and Syria. And I actually would like to start by paying tribute to all 3 of you, because you have been providing life-saving, very quick support. And I know, particularly I want to pay tribute to you, Prime Minister Phashinyan. I know your Foreign Minister was in Turkey, I think only a couple of days ago, meeting with his Turkish counterpart. And in the face of this tragedy, we actually may find a way to work together. And I think this is very important. But now, there may be no maybe direct impact, as you said, President, when it comes to the war against Ukraine. But we know for sure is that there is really a very strong feeling of insecurity in the wider Black Sea region. And I think the only way forward is really keeping the processes, I agree with you, on the Geneva International discussions, dialogues, but also regional cooperation. The OSCE, and this brings me to your question, has a mandate to promote regional cooperation, also to promote trade links, connectivity. I think that's very important. Now, it's very difficult to build sustainable peace, reconciliation. There are outstanding issues that need to be addressed related to the border, missing people, detainees, also mines. So this is why it's very important to use all the means we have, also on confidence building measures. For example, regional humanitarian demining efforts could be envisaged. We work a lot already with youth. Youth are the stakeholders of tomorrow, to bring together the leaders of tomorrow with all three countries. You will not be surprised to hear me say that women have to be part of all of that. But regional cooperation is important. I also am very supportive of the Brussels-led dialogue, I think, because it can deliver very concrete results, and also the implementation of the roadmaps agreed. In the end, it's about people. It's about conflict-affected people that deserve a better life for their future.
Thank you. Helga, you mentioned also, Prime Minister Phashinian, that you are helping in Turkey also now in the face of this horrible earthquake. Do you see a perspective that between Armenia and Turkey, what we have been looking for over many, many years, decades, that there is actually an improvement of relations? At some stage we were close to, again, getting rid of the blockade. And where do you stand there? Is there a perspective that out of this horrible crisis, this catastrophe, humanitarian catastrophe, something good may come out in your relationship?
Thank you. Thank you. Deciding to send humanitarian aid and rescuers to Turkey, we had humanitarian motivations only because millions of people suffered next to us. And but in the process, we see quite positive reaction from the Turkish government, and if this step will have political results as well, it's better. But our initial motivation, purely humanitarian, and as we announced, we are ready to provide as many humanitarian support as it is in our capacities, and we are ready to do that. As far as political dialogue is concerned, to be honest, before earthquake, we had political dialogue through the special envoys. And I believe that in reality, this dialogue was very important. I mean, in the creating atmosphere where these decisions were made. And I believe that through this humanitarian conversation and communication, maybe the opportunities for concrete political decisions will be higher. Especially, Minister, you mentioned visited Turkey and some political arrangement were mentioned there, and we are ready to go forward because we believe that really establishment of diplomatic relations with Turkey and the opening of our border would be very positive, not only in terms of our regional situation, but for international situation as well.
Yeah, let's hope that this comes out. We had originally the Turkish Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu wanted to come here, but of course, due to the situation in the country, he had to stay home. But let's hope that this will lead to something, because this border was closed for far too long, and we have to come also to improvement for the relations there. Now, let me come to the elephant in the room, if you allow me. This is, of course, the question that President Aliyev alluded to at the very beginning, the war that started, is it 2 years ago already? And we see a situation which is still very critical. We are not here to do any negotiations, but of course we are, when you look at it, the outside, the international community, we are concerned about the humanitarian situation, and one looks always, as we have been looking right now with regard to humanitarian aid to Turkey, we are looking at humanitarian steps. We see the Lachin corridor that is seen from the outside blocked, and we wonder, and maybe Prime Minister, you can tell us a bit about maybe efforts to have some confidence building measures there to see that somehow the situation improves. And we would, of course, all, and afterwards I would like to turn to President Aliyev again, we would, of course, like to see that through some small steps we come to a de-escalation and come closer to a resolution of this conflict.
Thank you. You're right. It's already 70 days that the Lachin corridor is blocked, and now, unfortunately, we have a humanitarian crisis in Nagorno-Karabakh and energetic crisis as well, because electricity supplies to Nagorno-Karabakh have been shut down, and the gas supplies as well have been shut down, and we counted, and during last 70 days the gas supplies were cut at least 10 times, and it is the problem that should be addressed. And our position is that in the trilateral statement from the 9 November 2020, we have very precise provisions connected with Lachin corridor, and according to that statement, it is the obligation of the Azerbaijan and Russian peacekeepers to keep Lachin corridor operable. But now, unfortunately, we have a totally different situation. And I meant Lachin corridor as well, saying that international attention should be kept on this situation, because we are afraid that continuation of this situation can cause unturnable humanitarian consequences for Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh.
President Aliyev, as I said, we are not here. We cannot negotiate the substance of the agreement and how to come to a final conclusion. I think the President of the European Council has been working with you on this. We don't want to get into this. My question is just, do you see, because you were saying that we should use this opportunity now to come to a more stable situation. Can you do some humanitarian gestures so that this blockade is being stopped, and the people that, according to what the Prime Minister is just saying, are in Nagorno-Karabakh are living in very difficult circumstances. That's something you can do as kind of a goodwill measure, confidence building, so that talks have a chance to succeed in with regard to the more substantial questions that, of course, are not resolved yet.
As far as we understand, and in our communications with our American partners and partners from European Union, and also as far as I understood from today's trilateral meeting with Prime Minister Phashinyan, which was organized by Secretary Blinken, we have a common understanding that there should be a two-track approach to the situation in the region. First, Azerbaijan-Armenian peace talks track. Second, Azerbaijan's communications with Armenian population in Karabakh. Just for your information, the word Nagorno-Karabakh is no longer valid. This is actually the Russian word. Nagorno means mountainous. And in Azerbaijan, there is not such an administrative unit like Nagorno-Karabakh. Therefore, of course, I would like to ask our partners to respect the sovereignty and constitution of Azerbaijan. There is a Karabakh region of Azerbaijan where there is an Armenian population. So this two-track solution actually separates our talks with Armenia from our internal issues like our communications with Armenians in Karabakh. And also it was agreed with our international partners that there will be discussions on rights and securities of Armenian minority in Karabakh. And we are ready to do it, but with those representatives of Armenian community who lived, who were born, and who lived in Karabakh throughout their life, but not with a person who was exported from Russia to have the leading position in Karabakh. Maybe exported is not the right word. I would probably prefer the word smuggled into, because nobody knows how he emerged in Karabakh and how he is trying and achieving to go back to Yerevan, and from there to Moscow, and then back to Yerevan, and then to Karabakh. Only this fact demonstrates that there is no blockade. Second fact which demonstrates that there is no blockade is that since 12th December until today, when our activists from civil society came to the checkpoint, there have been more than 2,500 vehicles, including trucks, of Russian peacekeepers and the representatives of Red Cross. Almost 100 medical patients from Karabakh were taken by Red Cross to Armenia for treatment. So how can we call it a blockade when there is an open road? And if Armenians in Karabakh try to use this road, I'm sure no one will stop them. So this is important to understand the current situation. And also, in order to properly evaluate the current situation, we need to go back a little bit to the history. For almost 30 years, our lands were under Armenian occupation. Prime Minister Garibashvili mentioned that in 2008, after the Russian-Georgian war, there were no sanctions imposed on Russia. But I also can say that Armenia occupied 20% of Azerbaijan's territory, violated international law, did not comply with UN Security Council resolutions for 27 years, and no sanctions were imposed on them. And we always were asking for sanctions to Armenia to be imposed to avoid the war. We were waiting for Minsk Group to deliver result. We were waiting for Security Council of United Nations to respect their resolutions. But we thought that there is no movement, and there is a common understanding that this conflict is frozen. So we prove that it is not frozen. We had to fight, we had to sacrifice 3,000 lives in order to restore our dignity, our territorial integrity and justice, and implement UN Security Council resolutions. Therefore, we cannot take out of the context today's situation in Karabakh or our communications with the Armenian community there and just forget about 30 years of occupation, forget about that the territory equal to the territory of Lebanon is totally in ruins. And that was done not by aliens, that was done by our neighbors who came, occupied our land, made 1 million Azerbaijanis homeless, destroyed 65 out of 67 mosques, desecrated them, and then when we kick them out, they now plead for justice. They accuse us of occupation, those who occupied us for 30 years. And also one thing is also should not be forgotten, that the trilateral declaration of November 2020, which Prime Minister referred to, actually de facto, is a capitulation act by Armenia. We fought the war, and the results of the war have been accepted by international community and by Armenian society. And the best indicator to that was a new mandate which Armenian population gave to Prime Minister. And that was a mandate for peace. Therefore, we need to look to the future. And I think that if we look to the future, and today is, as we discussed just prior to the session, is a historical day because for the first time 3 leaders get together in the independent countries. There was cases like that during the Soviet times. And we should not miss this opportunity. Karabakh Armenians are Azerbaijani citizens, a minority. Azerbaijan is a multi-ethnic country, and all minorities in Azerbaijan enjoy same rights and privileges, including cultural, linguistical, and any other, and also security. And we're ready to start practical communications with representatives of Armenian community in Karabakh. And today, in front of Secretary Blinken, I told my Armenian colleague about that, but we can do it only when Russian citizen, criminal oligarch, person who was involved in money laundering in Europe, Vardanyan, is out of our territory.
Now, as I said, we cannot replace negotiations here, but I would like to give the Prime Minister Pashinyan, a possibility to react to what he heard from President Aliyev. And then also I would like to give the audience, of course, a chance to ask questions to the panelists. Prime Minister.
Thank you. About Nagorno-Karabakh, you know, President mentioned trilateral statement, and on that trilateral statement we have provision, and we have Nagorno-Karabakh on trilateral statement, and we have signature of the President of Azerbaijan under this document. And we have Lachin corridor that should be freely operable. And by the way, according to that trilateral statement, out of control of Azerbaijan, and it is according to the signature of President of Azerbaijan. And recently, you know, some Armenians children from Nagorno-Karabakh, they tried to travel by bus through Lachin corridor, and they were stopped and masked some Azerbaijani persons with masks intruded into bus, and children there were screaming. And that was the last attempt of the Armenians on Nagorno-Karabakh to freely commute through Lachin corridor. President Aliyev mentioned destroyed mosques. You know, I would like to say that in 2017, in Azerbaijan, several mosques were destroyed for building new roads. And President Aliyev mentioned that several, I don't know how many thousand mosques that were destroyed. And by the way, in the Soviet time, and when in Azerbaijan, approximately 1,560 mosques were destroyed. And that it was the usual thing for Soviet Union. In Armenian, in Soviet time, churches were destroyed, mosques were destroyed. And you know, Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, they shouldn't pay the debts from the Soviet time. And you know, it's very important. It is very dangerous narrative, because I'm afraid sometimes there is an impression that Azerbaijan want to give some religious context to this whole situation. It is very dangerous. There is no any religious context in the conflict, and the proof is that that we have very good. And by the way, in our country, we have Muslim minority, and we have in our country acting mosque, and that is the reality. And you know, the wording of Azerbaijan, what is concerning. Using the wording of such kind of almost offensive wording, capitulation, etc. You know, from a side, it can be impression that now Azerbaijan want to show that, and that is maybe reality, that Azerbaijan adopted a revenge policy. You know, revenge policy, and maybe that is the policy of Azerbaijan. But as it was mentioned, we have very complicated history. And I just said, yes, maybe it is historical meeting, but for what purpose we want to use this? For inflaming intolerance, hate, aggressive rhetorics in our region, or in opposite, we want to use this platform for making things better. We think that this platform vote to be used for constructive purposes. Of course, we can now tell many stories of enmity, but what is the meaning of our leadership? To deepen that enmity, or to use our capacities, our authorities, our mandates. I'm proud that I've been able, our government was able, even after the devastating war, to have free democratic elections in our country that was worldwide acknowledged as free, democratic, and transparent and competitive. And as I said, from our point of view, is the solution is democracy, the solution is transparency, the solution is dialogue, the solution is respect for all countries in our region. And we are ready to to work to that direction? Thank you.
No, thank you very much. We will not be able to go any deeper into this. Again, my appeal is what I said at the beginning, that maybe this will help a bit to have some confidence-building measures, to see to it that when the Lachin corridor is used by children, to get humanitarian aid, to get have people travel there, that this is possible, so that people don't have to suffer from the political differences that subsist there. Also, that they have access to energy. So this is only the appeal we can launch here from this podium. Now we have a few minutes left, and I would ask questions there. This is a topic where you can have not ask questions but give a long statement. So I just warn you, please, only short questions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Yulia Smilovskaya, Globsec Kiev office. My question I'd like to put with regard to one common denominator that would probably be much easier for the President and two Prime Ministers to answer with regard to Russia. So basically, have the situation, the war in Ukraine, which was unexpected to most of us, forced you to reconsider your perception of Russia, because right now it is saying that Russia has turned itself from the point of stability into the country of instability in terms of security. So in this case, I see a bit of developments on all the sides with all the countries. So the question to the Prime Minister of Armenia is, you mentioned a couple of times that collective treaty, security defense treaty organization is not very productive at the moment, and raised this issue that Armenia might be leaving it. So could you dwell a bit more on these prospects? Then for the Prime Minister of Georgia, we reassessed the calculations about the potential strategic moves of Russia. While they are losing in Ukraine, they might be considering of making some blitzkriegs in the countries they consider much more vulnerable and easy targets, like Moldova and Georgia. Do you see this threat for your country? And for the President of Azerbaijan, you mentioned these negotiations and talks with the participation of US as mediator. So it looks like Russia has lost this role with regard to Nagorno-Karabakh. Could you comment?